History Inside a Nutshell, the show where we sail into our port of call discussing maritime history. Today's video focuses on an airship that had a similar fate to the Hindenburg. This video has been kindly narrated by Jack McGanahan, who is a screenwriter and voice actor. Jack is autistic, but he is an experienced blogger and has demonstrated history of working in the retail industry. And Jack has been on my channel before, but he has done tremendous work, and I know that he is very popular on this channel. So Jack, thank you so much once again, and until then, I hope you enjoyed Jack's narration story of the R101.
On the 6th of May 1937, 35 people were killed when the German airship Hindenburg caught fire. This happened following a gas leak when it was descending to its destination, New Jersey. But 7 years earlier, another airship disaster occurred, which is considered deadlier than the Hindenburg. The British airship, the R101, crashed during its flight from England to Pakistan. As a result, 47 people perished. But how did this incident occur? And why did the disaster not stop airships until the infamous Hindenburg disaster? Since the 18th century, airships have fascinated the public.
Although the tradition was that ships were becoming the vessels of travel, airships overtook ships, though it took some baby steps. By 1900, airships were taking to the skies, and the Germans paved the way for modern travel, having already dominated the ocean with the likes of the SS Kaiser Wilhelm. However, as Cunard Line fought back with the Lusitania and Mauretania at sea, Britain fought back in the skies. In 1902, British aeronaut Stanley Spencer constructed the Mellin airship, which made its maiden voyage on the 22nd of September around the city of London. With its success, Spencer constructed a second airship the following year. By 1929, Britain had made airships for the Royal Navy, the military, and a class of airships. However, a series of them had been cancelled, never built, or were tested to destruction. However, there had been 3 airships that were involved in a series of accidents. The R101 was one of them. The R101 was built as part of a British government initiative to develop airships to provide passenger and mail transport to countries in the British Empire, including India, Australia, and Canada. A civil airship development program, the Burney Scheme, was proposed in 1922. Although it was to be carried out by British engineering conglomerate Vickers, the program had the support of the British government, but the main supporter was the Air Ministry. However, the program was scrapped due to financial difficulties. A year after the rejection, Lord Thompson, the new Air Minister, formulated another program, the Imperial Airship Scheme. With its replacement to the Burney Scheme, the Imperial Airship Scheme called for the building of 2 experimental airships, the R100, which would be constructed by Vickers, and R101. R101, nicknamed the Socialist Airship, in contrast to the Vickers-constructed capitalist airship R100, was designed and constructed under the direction of the Air Ministry. It was agreed that the R101 was to be built of not less than 5 million cubic feet capacity and a fixed structural weight not to exceed 90 tons, giving a disposable lift of nearly 62 tons. Inside, the R101 would have had the capacity of 100 passengers and 40 crew members. It could also have a load of 42 tons of fuel, a cruise speed of 63 miles per hour, and tankage for 57 hours of flight. In the event of war, the R101 could have carried 200 troops, or 5 Parasite fighter aircraft. The construction of the R101 was due to start in July 1925, to be completed the following summer before it would begin a trial flight to India, planned for January 1927. However, there was a delay in the construction due to a failed attempt to create hydrogen using engines and several other new design concepts. The construction process wouldn't start again until early 1927. In 1929 and early 1930, the R101 began a series of trial flights, including flying at the Hendon Air Show. However, the early trial flights proved to be disastrous. One example of this comes at the show when the airship, during the return flight, almost plunged to the ground and kept falling into a dive. Despite the problems, the Air Ministry pressured engineers to continue the project. And after making a series of improvements, including a bigger frame and adding reversing propellers, which had made the ship longer at around 237 meters long, the R101 had been given a certificate of airworthiness. The airship also had a new central bay and gas bag installed. With the new bag, it was expected that it would give the R101 another 9 tons of disposable lift to 50 tons, which proved to be successful. In late September 1930, the R101 lay in the No. 1 shed at Cardington, in Bedfordshire, where she was waiting for her trial flight. The flight was scheduled for the 26th of September, but due to high wind, it was rescheduled for the 1st of October. The R101 took to the sky at 4:30 p.m. and took a 24-hour endurance flight to complete the engine and other trials. On board there was Lord Thompson, who was modifying the ship during this time. The airship left Cardington and flew towards Essex before spending the night over the North Sea. 17 hours later, R101 returned to Cardington. On Saturday 4th of October, R101 departed from Cardington, beginning her maiden voyage to Pakistan. It was planned that after flying through Europe, the airship would make a fuel stop in Egypt before continuing its journey through the Middle East. Before the voyage, there had been a weather conference to determine whether the conditions of northern France were good and fair or the opposite. Despite France having cloudy and moderate winds in the morning, the conditions deteriorated, and although they weren't bad to cancel the voyage, the R101 left England. At the time of takeoff, the R101 was left in misty fine rain and darkness. By 9:47 p.m, the R101 was passing through Hastings in heavy rain and strong winds. Despite this, the airship was cruising at a speed of 54.2 knots, but she was increasing height to avoid land. Despite this, she was working well and there were no further problems. They crossed over the English Channel and above France by midnight on the 5th of October. At a wind speed of 35 miles per hour, or 243 degrees, the R101 decreased her speed down to 33 knots. At 2 a.m, the R101 reached the town of Beauvais, 113 kilometers away from Paris.
However, there were signs of difficulty as eyewitnesses on board the R101 noticed that the airship had difficulty with gusting winds. She was rolling in the winds, and her promenade lights became obscured. Then the R101 made a long and steep dive, knocking engineers off their feet and causing furniture in the smoking room to slide. Rain soaked the upper part of the airship's nose, and as a result, the forward gas bags were exposed and the gusting wind damaged them. The nose forced itself down at a maximum downward angle of 18 degrees. The R101 took a first dive before the captain and crew were able to keep the airship under control. Captain Herbert Irwin rang for the order for all engines to reduce their speed, and knowing they weren't able to continue with their journey, an executive decision was made to make an emergency landing. A second gust of wind moved the airship into a second dive, and during that, a control cable snapped. By that point, the elevator stopped working. At around 530 feet above the ground, the emergency ballast was ordered to be released from the nose of the airship. However, the R101 took a third dive, and at a downward angle, the airship's nose hit the ground. Suddenly a fire broke out. The flames caused spontaneous combustion from the starboard engine car, since there was a 9-foot mark, and the hot engine came into contact with the free gas from the forward bags, while the propeller was still revolving. The fire immediately consumed the ship, and gas bags from the forward after part of the ship exploded. When the damage was done, the fire engulfed the outer cover and the framework, and gas valves were damaged, and tragically only 8 people, all men, survived the disaster. This included foreman engineer Harry Leach, wireless operator Arthur Disley, and riggers Samuel Church and W.G. Radcliffe. Church and Radcliffe would die from their injuries a few days later. Following the disaster, an inquiry was held, and it was there that the court looked into the events before drawing to a conclusion in March 1931. It was concluded in the final report that the proximate cause of the destruction of the airship was when the hot starboard diesel engine contacted extremely combustible hydrogen gas leaking from the airship's envelope. It was also noted that there were buoyancy and control issues, especially the lack of proper design and flight test issues. The weather conditions also played a part in the disaster, as the strong winds, heavy rain, and wind shear created nominal conditions for which the R101 was unprepared. Later on, similar events would follow when the Hindenburg also had the same fate as the R101. But why did the Germans continue making airships similar to the British ones? We might never know for sure, though it is rumoured salvaged framework from the R101 was purchased by the Zeppelin Company to recast the 5-ton duralumium from the wreckage and use it for the Hindenburg. The wreckage of the R101 remained in Beauvais until December 1931, when the skeleton was salvaged by scrap contractors. R01's competitor, the R100, was grounded before she was broken up and sold for scrap. Although the tragedy of the R101 was similar to the Hindenburg disaster, the incident and its lessons were ignored by the Germans, but the British realised that, as well as being dangerous, there was no further financial support to make more and safer airships. However likely, Britain didn't make more for political reasons, as the Zeppelins were used as symbols for Nazi propaganda. Despite this, the R101 has been featured in popular culture, such as Big Finish's Doctor Who audio drama Storm Warning, which marked Paul McGann's first time back to the franchise since 1996, a rock opera called Curly's Airships, Monty Python's sketch Historical Impersonations, with Napoleon Bonaparte essaying the role of the disaster, and the song Empire of the Clouds by the band Iron Maiden. It isn't forgotten, but it's one that was overshadowed by the Hindenburg. With this video, it's hoped that the story of the R101 will resurface again for future generations. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.
If you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe for future videos. Until next time, this has been History Inside a Nutshell, departing from the docks. Thank you so much for all of your support and enjoy the rest of your voyage.